All right, so I want to welcome everyone to the presentation on how to become a MicroStation guru. And we're going to start off by just setting this thing up. As I go along, I'm in a presentation mode, so I won't be able to hear anybody else speaking. But we can use chat, and on your Join Me toolbar, you're going to see a little voice icon, and the voice icon allows you to ask questions. So if you have questions as we going along, you can ask them there, and I'll try to answer them towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so feel free to ask your questions there. All right, so if anyone else checks in later, we'll just take it up as we're going along, and let's get started. So the subject here is how to become a MicroStation guru. And what is a guru? A guru is someone who just has more knowledge than the average person and can make a software sing, so to speak, and do things that other people can't usually do. And there is no absolute shortcut to becoming a MicroStation guru. One of what you have to have is a willingness to do more than the usual, to dig in, to do a little research and spend a little time. And, you know, these are things that I've done over the 22 or 3 years that I've been a MicroStation user, and I enjoy really getting in there. So I'm going to show you some of the things that you can do, some of the resources and places you can go, and the tools that you have at your disposal to become a MicroStation guru. And then I'm going to show you some of the tools that Axiom has that can make that job a lot simpler for you if you use those tools. So let's just get started with that. So first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to open just a real easy sample file that we're going to use. All right. And we're going to take a look at some of the things that MicroStation offers you in the way of making changes to files, being able to go through lots of files quickly and make changes. And these are some of the things that make you really stand out as a user when you know how to do these things. The utilities menu in MicroStation has quite a few different things on it. If you design day in and day out and you're drawing shapes and lines and things like that, you may not get into this utilities menu very frequently. But towards the bottom here, you'll see a few tools that are very useful to you. One is called the batch processor. So if your job, or if you have a situation where you need to make a change to a lot of files, this batch processor can help, okay? I'm going to go ahead and just click here and open it up. So this is one of the tools that you have at your disposal. What the batch processor lets you do is it lets you to select any number of files, okay? You can go here and you can add files or directories to process to this list of files, okay? Then you tell it the command file. Now the command file that this uses is just an ASCII text file that lists key-in commands, one per line usually, that you want to run on this series of files. And as you may or may not know, in MicroStation, just about any activity or any action that you want to take can be done not only with the mouse clicking a tool, but through the key-in browser as well, okay? And the key-in browser gives you key-in commands that you can use. And again, on the utilities menu, you go to key-in, and there is a list of all the different key-ins that MicroStation supports. And there are hundreds and hundreds of key-in commands that you can use. Now, most people don't know them all. I don't even know them all, although I know quite a few of them. So ones that you're probably familiar with, if you want to set the active color to red, you can go CO equals red, okay? And you'll notice up here that my active color becomes red, okay? That's the key-in command. You can also go active color red, or let's call it green this time, boom, okay? And it becomes green. You can also do the same thing, and instead of using a name, you can use a number. So we make it 2. It's still green, okay? these are key-in commands. You can set the line style. You can set the level, the active level. You can change the name of a level from one thing to another thing. You can you can even attach a reference file with key-in commands. You can select elements. You can do all different sorts of things with key-in commands alone. And we don't have nearly enough time to go through everything that you can do, but suffice it to say, just about anything you might want to do, you can do with a set of key-in commands. Now, how can you utilize this? Well, you can sequence key-in commands in this window here. Okay, you can select a file. So let's say I have one. I've already built one, and I'm going to call setActive.txt. Now, it's just a TXT file. And in this, we have key-in commands. Now, this little icon here lets you browse for one of these command files. If you don't have one, you can create a new one right here. And if you want to edit it, if you click this, it'll just open it up in Notepad for you, okay, which is your text editor. And in here, you'll see I have a set of key-in commands that sets the active level to default, the color to by level, the weight to by level, and the line code to by level, or the style to by level. LC is just a short key-in command. I could also say active color by level, active weight by level, that kind of thing, okay? Now, you got this file. If I want to do something like fit all, which is a key-in command that'll fit everything into a view, okay? References, master elements as well. Afterwards, you do have to select a view that you want to use. Now, something that routinely happens, okay, is that there is a key-in command to select a view, and it's SELVIEW and the view number that you want it to select. So fit all and cell view 1 will fit the view to 1, okay? Another thing that people, you know, if you're a MicroStation user, you're very aware of this, but if you go to if you make changes to view attributes or to view settings or to active symbology, you have to save settings in order for those changes to persist once the file is closed, okay? And the way you do that in a key-in file is with a key-in command called file design, like this, okay? That is essentially the same as choosing file save settings, okay? Very important to know if you want your changes to persist if you're going through a batch of files. I could set all this stuff, and if I didn't have file design listed afterwards, next time I open the file, these would not be the active settings for that thing, okay? So let's see how this would work. So we did that. I'm going to close it. It's going to say you want to save your changes. We'll save the changes. So we're going to set all the active symbology up here to by level, the weight to default, and we're going to fit the view 1, okay? Now, which files do we want to process? I'm just going to go to the Edit menu here, and I'm going to say Add the active file. So we're just going to do it on this one active file. I could, you know, go out here and add files and directories. I could pick up, you know, any number of files, add multiple files in here and add them. You can also do a basic model filter, and by that I mean the only thing you can do in regards to models is you can process all models in the file or just the default model. Those are your choices. That is one of the limitations in this batch processor, is that it doesn't give you good control over models. And one of the benefits to the Axiom tools is you have not only files that you can select, but you can isolate the specific models that you want to process if you're using multiple models. All right, now again, I'm just going to do the one file, but what we're going to do here is we're going to hit this process button up here, and you can see here we've got, it says OK, and then you hit process. If I had 100 files in here, they'd all be listed. Now you can just see that it went through and it's done, okay? And if you look up here, you can see default's the active level. We've got by level for color, weight, and style. You saw the view, it's fit, okay? And that's how you can use the batch processor. You can sequence key-in commands to do just about anything you might want to do in a MicroStation file. So that's just an example of one way that you can really excel if you see a situation where you can make the same change using the batch processor. Okay. Another tool in MicroStation is, in the old days, there used to be EDG. You could change things with EDG. It was the old version 7, short for edit graphics. It was a DOS window type of a thing that you could activate. In V8, they did away with that, but they did give you some really nice tools to be able to make changes to files. Okay. And again, if you go to the Utilities menu, you go down here to the choice of macro. Now, there are what they call basic macros, although you should get away from basic macros if you can. They're not always going to be supported well. And through time, as MicroStation changes, sometimes the way the macros work, sometimes they used to work and now they don't, and as time goes on. So the better choice is to use Visual Basic, okay, and to use what they call MVBA or MicroStation VBA files, okay. And we're gonna use a project manager here, and I'm going to open that up, okay. And there is a default project that is usually set up in your project workspace, and if you want to get in and edit these things, you can. Now, this project manager gives you a lot of tools. You can record a macro. In other words, you can create a VBA. You can record a series of steps. Like, let's say I wanted to turn on the view attribute for a particular view, and I wanted to, change the color of something. I could turn on this record option. I could go through all the steps, and then I could stop the recording of that macro, and then I can go in and edit it. Now, editing of VBAs, okay, is through what we call the Visual Basic Editor, and you click that icon, and it opens this VBA editor. Now, if you're not a programmer, you don't have to be a programmer to get very good at MicroStation. If you want to learn VBA and you want to get into it, this gives you so much capability, it's unbelievable, but you do have to learn a little bit of programming, okay? Now, if you want to do that, the way you do that, all right, is there is a help file that you have available, okay? And it's in the C program data, Bentley, and MicroStation V8i, if that's what you're using. Back. I apologize. We're going to go back to Bentley. We're going to go to Program Files, Bentley, MicroStation, Select Series, MicroStation, and in there there's a file that comes with MicroStation called MicroStation VBA CHM, and this is a help file that can help you learn all the different ins and outs of programming in MicroStation VBA, getting started with Visual Basic, developing code in VBA, okay, the different interfaces, things like that. So if you want to learn, this is a great thing to learn. The more and the better you get at this, there's almost nothing that can get in your way as far as things that you could accomplish using this code, okay? Again, not to get too technical, but everything that's in a MicroStation file is part of or is considered different types of objects. If I open up objects, you can see a B-spline object, an arc element, it has its own object. And an object is just a collection of different properties about the element and different things that you can do to manipulate particular elements, okay? So if we go into an arc element, for example, and I open this with the plus sign, we can get the center point property. What is the point value for the center point of that arc, okay? You get what's the length of that arc? That is a property that you can extract, okay? Reverse method, you can turn around and rewrite it in reverse, okay? That's a method. That's something you can do with the object, okay? You can change about the object. So all the different, you've got for everything. You've got cell elements, you can go through them, you've got design files, you've got model references, all those things, and each one has a series of properties, and you can learn these things, and you can go through some basic data to find all these, how all these things work. In addition, MicroStation comes with some samples of these things. So if you're interested in finding out about them, what you're going to do in this case, you're going to go to Program Data, and under Bentley, and under we'll go to Select Series. Most of you guys, I'm sure, are on V8i. You're going to go under here, and then under System, there's a folder called VBA, and in here there's one called Examples, and there's a whole series of examples of VBA in use that you can go into and you can learn, okay? And you can read through them, and you just open them up in this editor and you go through. Just to give you a quick idea, I've got a little routine here. It's called Change LE Color, and I just wrote this. It took me like, 45 seconds to write this. Boom, boom, boom. You just write it out. We're creating what they call an element. They call it an element enumerator. What that means is it's just a way to scan through the file, touching each element in there, okay? And we're going to set up that element enumerator to scan through the whole file. And while it's going through it, stopping at each element, and we're going to set the element there. And then if the element type that we just scanned for is a line, then we're going to change the element color. We create a variable that says we got this element, dot color is the property color, and we're setting it equal. I'm going to set it to equal something else. Let's set it equal to, 4. I think that's yellow. Okay, default MicroStation color table. And then we're going to redraw and rewrite the element. Okay, and this is just a quick example. We're going to go through the whole file. This is the file that we're going through. So I'm going to run this little thing. I'm going to hit Run. Okay, run the sub or user form. Boom. Now we go back in, and you notice that all the lines in this thing are now yellow. Okay. So you could change the weight, you could change the style, you could change the length of the line. You can do a lot of different things in VBA just that quickly, okay, with a little routine like this. And you can get a lot more complex than that as well. Again, we could spend days just going over all the things and learning VBA. That's not really the point here. I just want you to know that this capability is there. If you take the time to learn it, and nobody becomes an expert at VBA in 15 minutes. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen. You're going to have to play with it and learn the capabilities, and little trial and error, you're going to figure out a lot of things, and you're going to become quite a good programmer. All right. So that's another awesome tool that's available to you to make changes. And if you start doing things with this, you can start simple. You can, what's something that happens all the time in, in your business or the job you have to do that could be automated and made a whole lot easier for you? Well, you can come up with ways to use VBA to do it. You can also figure out sequences of key-in commands that you can run through that batch processor. Most of you are probably aware you also have function keys in MicroStation, okay? And with function keys, okay, you can put any of those key-in commands connected to a function key. For example, for me, for Control F4 as an example, Control F4 is MDL silent load DGN settings. In a MicroStation file, you have the DGN settings. What's the color table? What are the working units? I have to access that all the time for the things that I do. So if I hit on my keyboard, and you won't see this, but I'm doing it, Control F4, it opens up the DGN settings dialog box. So that's my shortcut, quick way of getting to what I'm interested very quickly. And again, that's another thing that you can do. And if you want to run two key-in commands together, you can do that using a colon between them. For example, I showed you could do a fit view, and then you could do cell view 1, okay? So let's go like here. So if you're always doing fit view and you're tired and you're always working in view 1, you could do something like you could set a key in command in your preferences, in your function key menu. You pick the key combination you want to use. A lot of them are used, a lot of them aren't. So if I got control, let's go to shift dialog raster. I'm using a lot of these. I'm not going to, so shift F6, okay? And let's say I wanted to fit view with that. I could just go fit all. I could do a semicolon, the period with the comma underneath it, and then cell view 1 if I knew it was always going to be view 1. Boom. And that's under shift F6, okay? Hit OK. Boom. So if I go shift F6 on my keyboard, you see what happens. It's right in there. So these are things, you can set up, and those function key commands are saved into a file in your workspace, okay, that you can access and you can save and you can make available to yourself and to others if you want to. Again, things that can be very useful to you. All right, so, those are things that you're going to find quite useful. And that's how you access them. You also have tools in here, a thing called the batch converter. This gives you the capability to translate or change files from MicroStation to AutoCAD, AutoCAD to MicroStation, and something you can do in a batch process. Now, one of the problems in here, there's quite a few settings that control that. Most people aren't familiar with them. You can check the format that you want to save to. You can do things like remap levels, colors, weights, styles, all that sort of stuff during there. But, that's, again, another longer thing. I just want you to know that it's in there, again, under the Utilities menu called the Batch Converter, okay? So, getting familiar with those, learning how to use them, and there are help files in MicroStation where you can learn to use that, etc., okay? So those are the different resources that you have. Now, how do you, becoming this guru, like I said, is not an overnight proposition. You'll get better and better as you spend time and you put a little effort into understanding that. The other way you can become a guru is to get resources, make resources available that you can utilize to make yourself more successful and much more efficient. And that's really where Axiom comes in and where our tools come in. That's what we provide, is a method for you to have access to a MicroStation guru and have tools available that you don't have to become a full-time programmer to get good at or anything like that, okay? And, just as an example, with Axiom, for example, you have a program like Global File Changer. And Global File Changer can do everything that batch processor can do, plus it has some special features that the batch processor really doesn't have. Number one, I mentioned you have all these different model choices. Not only can you pick the different model types that you want to process, you can filter by model names throughout a whole set of files. So let's say you have AutoCAD files that come in. You got the model, which is a design model when it's saved into MicroStation. You got the paper space layout, which becomes a sheet model in MicroStation. Maybe the change you want to make is only to the sheet model or only to the design model. Well, you can do that very easily with Global File Changer. Okay. You can use wildcards on the command line here. Okay. So let's say I wanted to make I put an asterisk there or a question mark, so I can say all the files that start with clock. I can just leave it like that. Or if I want to see which files that matches, I can click the select button, and you'll notice that all the files that match my wildcard here are showing up. Let's say, okay, I don't want the template one, so I'll get rid of that. And I want to process those 6, okay? That's great. Now, what can you do? What else can you do? We can run a script on those, and we can also do things like create a selection set. Here's the key. When you're going into a file and you've got to change lots of things, in most cases, you don't have to change everything in the file. For example, I want to change something to a level, but I want to leave the other things on the level they're on, okay? So the key becomes, how do I select just the elements that I'm interested in moving or changing or doing something about? And with Global File Changer, it has its own element selection utility that gives you all kinds of capabilities there, where you can easily create name selection sets and save them into a file that you can then reuse those selection sets anytime you want to. So just as a quick look here, I'm going to open a simple selection file that I have created, okay, for this particular file called clock.sel. We save these into SEL files, which is just our extension for selection set file. And within that, you can see I have a selection set called lines, hands, numbers, and faces. And as I select those, you can see the element types that are selected change, okay? So if I want to see which elements the lines pick up, I can hit test, and you can see all these lines are highlighted. So I can, in a script, I can access or activate this selection set, and then I can make changes to just those elements, leaving everything else alone, okay? And that gives you a lot of power. If I want to do the hands and make different changes, I test that, and these are the things that will change when the hand selection set's available. So I've created these, and you can create them with any combination of element types, levels, colors, weight, styles, properties, classes, etc. So you can most definitely isolate just what you're interested in. And within each category of thing, you also have additional filtering criteria. Like for a shape, you can select it based on whether it's filled or not, or both. You can do it by fill color if you're only after a particular fill color. You can do it by the perimeter of the shape, okay, in terms of a length master unit value, or the number of vertices that that shape has. So if you want to limit it even further, it'd be easy to do. And again, anytime you want a new selection set, you just set what you want, you give it a name, and you add it to the list, and then you save it to this file. All right. Now we've got the clock selection set done. So how do we use this thing? So now with Global File Changer, we create what we call a key file. And a key file in Global File Changer, okay, is just a it's like that text file that we did for the batch processor. It is a ASCII text file that we give a KEY extension to that contains key-in commands that we want to run, okay? And in this case, we're going to run this clock.key. And again, we have a little edit button, and if you want to open it up in Notepad and see what it is, you can do this. And I've sequenced with these these semicolons at the beginning of a line, make it a comment. But what I've done is I'm opening that selection file that I just showed you I built to make it active. And then with this command, I activate the line selection set, and then the numbers, and then the face, and then the hands. And I'm using other key-in commands to do things to set up the file. So you can do this. You save it to a key file. Anytime you want to update the symbology using that, you just load it. We've got those 7 files we're going to process. Okay, we're going to create a report in the same folder, and I'm just going to hit start. And the program just goes through and it quickly does all the different things. It makes the selections, it does the changes, and you can see it changing that way. So this is a program that you can use that gives you lots of additional capability to make changes. And it's a little easier to talk to than the Visual Basic Editor, okay? Although if you get good at the Visual Basic Editor, you might find using that is very useful to you too. But this gives you a way. Now, not only do you have this capability, but when you own Global File Changer, Axiom, we've done this for, several decades now. And we've got tons of scripts that do all kinds of things, and you have access to that with your support on Global File Changer, okay? in addition to all those key-in commands, Global File Changer has a bunch of custom commands that do things that are not easily done any other way. You can make all kinds of modifications to text. You can change text style, fonts. You can change text in cells or not in cells. You can change the text attributes of tags and dimensions, visible tags and dimension text. You can do any number of search and replace, find this, replace it with this throughout hundreds of files in just a few minutes. And again, this program gives you the capability of really making changes very easily, and it also gives you the ability to have somebody you can call when you need some help with something or you're trying to figure out how to do something that you want to do. So that's Global File Changer, and that's one of the programs that you'll find extremely useful. Another program that gets called into play all the time is one we call RefMerge, and as its name suggests, it allows you to control very easily reference files, and it gives you the ability to do lots of different things with them. All right, I'm just going to open again a simple sheet file. We'll call it sheet1.dgn, and I'm going to start up RefMerge. Well, again, this is a batch processing program. It gives you all different types of tools. You can run reference file attachment reports. You can get reports about how the attachment's there, the vertices, what levels are turned on and off if you want to, what the logical name, clipping boundaries, scale, rotation, any of the settings you're interested in. You can quickly get a report on hundreds of master files, sheet files, and all their references if you want to, very quickly, very easily, okay? You can also attach reference files. Let's say you have 3 or 4 reference files you need to attach to, 100 different files to start setting them up, for a roadway project or something like that. Well, you can attach one set to one file and copy them to the other 99 files in the set using the attach feature, okay? There's another one called clone or replace, and this comes in extremely, let's say you've already got a project going, you've got an alignment, and you've got all these, borders set up like I'm showing you in this file here, and you need to add a new file to there, but you need to honor the clipping boundaries and the orientations based on another file that already is attached to that. Well, you can clone the attachment that's set up the way you want to, and you can add the new file using that, using the clone feature. And again, on a big project with lots of sheets, you can do that in mere minutes through 100 files, where it would take, a lot longer than that to set it up any other way. Modify reference file attachments, and this also gets quite a bit of use, and one of the primary ways it gets utilized is changing level display. Again, you've got references set up, and one of the things that you have to do routinely is change which levels are turned on and turned off for a particular reference file throughout the whole set of sheets to keep them in good way. So with level display, for example, let's say, I've got 4 sheets here in my project, okay, that I'm working on here, and I'm going to use a wildcard to process them. And what I want to do is, let's say I want to turn off a particular level for a particular reference file. So if I go in here and I set up one file the way I want it, okay, I'm going to turn off the curb level globally. I can do it by view or globally, whatever, just easier this way. And then with this level display, I can say, okay, I want to match an existing reference file's level display. So I'll pick this Route 66, which I just changed here, okay? And it makes a list of all the levels turned on and off for the global setting as well as the view setting for all those levels. And then I can, with RefMerge, I'm going to process my 4 sheets with this wildcard, and I'm also going to limit this display change to the specific reference file that I want to do it. So we have a filtering method in here where we can filter by the file name, the logical name, anything like that we want to. It was route66.dgn, okay? And now I just go start. And what's going to happen is this program, it's going to look at all the attachments, and there are 15 attachments. Only 4 matched what we were looking for, okay? And we just changed the level display for that particular reference file, and throughout that whole set, okay? So those are some of the things that you can do with RefManager. You can do the same sort of thing for changing symbology. Let's say you have a reference file that has override symbology that you want to apply. You can do it for bi-level symbology, override symbology in the same way. Set it up the way you want it in one, copy it to all the others. Again, you don't have to be a guru to use this program. It's very straightforward, and it makes you look like one because you can make huge necessary changes very quickly throughout a set of files. You can do things like change vector settings. You go through, like a lot of projects have certain settings for level of nesting, like the model can have no nesting, the sheet model can have 1 level of nesting, that sort of thing. So you might need to go through and change attachments so that their nesting level is set a particular way. No nesting for the model, live nesting with a level of 1 or 2 or whatever it happens to be for the sheets, as an example. So you could use this to change it throughout a whole set of things to meet the standard that's in play there, okay? You could also go, some projects have pathing requirements. I want a particular path with relative path set. So you could save the relative path on any of your reference files and then send them out. And you could do this in mere minutes through hundreds of files, okay? Very quickly, very easily, you got the job done run. You want to change something about the file name. You want to, change project 123 to 456. You can do it here. You can do it by case insensitive substitution, sensitive substitution. You can change file name only, file name and extension, just the extension, the relative path, project-wise URLs and paths if you need to, logical name, description, etc. You got lots of choices. You can modify it in many different ways and quickly update settings, okay? So that's RefManager, and it gives you, just incredible capability of managing reference files where you need that, okay? Another tool that's available to you, from Axiom that gets used all the time is one we call SpecChecker. Now, I don't remember if you knew anything about EDG back in the old days, but SpecChecker, in addition to giving you the capability of managing design files, okay, or checking standards on design files, gives you tremendous capability in editing and accessing hard-to-reach elements in MicroStation design files. One of the ways that comes up all the time are people get, when they bring in AutoCAD files into MicroStation, you get hundreds of these shared cell definitions instead of normal cells. And, even though you get them to display correctly on the screen, a lot of times the definition for the shared cell actually has illegal levels or things like that. And SpecChecker is a tool that you can use to fix that, believe it or not, okay? It also gives you the rule to, the ability to check files to make sure they meet standards. Again, okay, I've got all these files. I've got used continuous as a line style. I want to change it to 0 or, on and on and on. And, just really quickly, I'm going to show you what you can do there. We go in here. I'm going to open standards.dgn. Here we go. All right. And, this is a file, just a simple file, but I can create rules that represent this file, okay, very quickly with a companion program that comes with SpecChecker called Rule Manager. So if you have a set of files follow standards, you can very quickly create rules to define that standard. So let's just say I wanted to do that first. This is my standards file. I wanted to create a set of rules that would do this. I'd put that in. I'd put the name of the rules file I wanted to create. I'd hit start. I've done this before, so I'm going to overwrite it, and the rules are complete, okay? That's how quick you can create a good set of rules that define different things that you might be interested in, like color, weight, style, level, text properties like size, font, justification, cell names, things like that. I didn't have those turned on, so I'm going to regenerate that rule really quick, okay? And there we go. Now, if I use SpecChecker to check this with that rules file, okay, SpecChecker, boom, and I'm going to select the rules file that I just built there called standards.rule, okay, and I'm going to create report, and I'm going to run through this. Now, I have interactive turned off. This program can be used in batch or interactive if you want to visit the elements that you're doing. And I'm going to hit like start, boom. No violations detected. The rules that we wrote represent this file, so that's what you'd expect. Now, let's just add an element, okay, and let's say, you know, you got a project, and we're going to add a line here that uses a level. There's not going to be a rule for this level in this file. So this element's going to be rejected. When we go through, we're going to see one violation exist in this file. And if we want to look at the report, we can get an output. And this message is completely customizable to give you any information you want. It gives you the element ID, the file position, the name of the file, etc. Now, if your job is to fix things like that, again, you can go interactive editing if you want to, and it'll zoom in to the element when it finds it. You got a blink button. You can use any MicroStation tool you want, or you'll notice up here there's a correction section. Right now it says none, okay? Because corrections you do have to add manually based on what you want to do. But let's say what I wanted to do was maybe change the font in a file, or find everything that's on a particular level and change it to another level, okay? You can very, very easily do that using a quick rule that you create, okay? And again, I want to show you how simple this is. I know there is a little learning, and there's a user's manual that comes with it, but if I wanted to change a font, for example, I could write a rule as simple as reject font does not equal, and we've got a little code there. Exclamation equal means does not equal. And let's say we wanted everything to be in Arial font as an example. Okay, so we're going to reject font does not equal Arial. And we're going to, if we run into this text, we're going to put a message in the report file, and I just put that between double quotes. So illegal font, and then I'm going to put % font name, and this is a variable that's going to tell me which font was used, okay? And being changed to Arial, or whatever you want you want to say there. It's, as I said, completely customizable. And then I'm going to make a correction, which is font equals Arial, okay? And that's my rule. And I'm going to save it, and I'm going to make it a rules file, and we're going to call it, we're going to go into Checker, and we're going to go into Demo, and I'm going to put it into this folder. And I'm going to put change to Arial.rule, okay? Boom. And then we go in here, and we go SpecChecker. And again, I've got this. If that's what I need to do on 100 files, I can put all 100 files in here. I can go select my rules file, which is, oops, wrong folder. Bear with me. Demo. Change to Arial, okay? And we're going to select that one. So we now have that. And, you know, if there's also on SpecChecker, there's this little search only thing. If I'm curious how many things are going to be fixed or repaired this way, I can hit start, and it'll go through and it won't make the changes. So 208 text elements are not Arial in this file, basically. And if I open it up, you can see illegal font working is going to be, so all this font is working in this file. Now I turn off search only, and I go, boom, and we go through, and we've changed all the text in this file to Arial, and you can see that it changed there, okay? And if we open it up, we can see that we've changed it all to Arial. So let's say I had 25 or 30 files I had to do this on. It would probably take me 10 minutes, and I could update all the text to Arial if that's what I wanted to do. And there's things like that, hundreds of things like that that you can bump into and changes that you can make with this program called SpecChecker. And, you know, I've only touched the surface there. You can also, you know, any standards that you have that are defined either by files that you already have or by DGN libraries. That Rule Manager program not only can evaluate, you know, files that have graphic elements in it, but it can evaluate DGN libraries, quickly create rules for any set of levels, colors, weights, or styles you might be interested in, text styles, dimension styles, things like that. All right, so that's SpecChecker. And then another program that gets used quite a bit is one we call Title Block Manager, okay? And Title Block Manager gives you the ability to go through and extract information from title blocks, add or change information from title blocks very quickly and very easily. And I'm going to show you this using tags, but you know, to give you an idea, you always have sheets. In every project you wind up with sheets, and in those sheets you have, you know, title block information that varies. You've got a border and you've got a, you know, an outline like this as an example, where the information that varies, drawing number, titles, you know, scale, who drew it, when they drew it, etc. All that's changeable information, could well be different in every file that you're processing. So the idea with Title Block Manager is that you can extract information from a whole set of files very quickly with this program. You can get it into an Excel spreadsheet. You can make changes in the Excel spreadsheet, and then you can write those changes back into the design files very quickly and very easily. So let's say we wanted to update the sheet number, okay, and the total number of sheets. We could do it real easily. And just to give you a quick look there, we'll open up the program. We're going to process again using a wildcard here. I think I got 4 or 5 files with it. We're going to create a database, meaning an Excel spreadsheet in this case, called Guru Demo 2. Okay, that's just the name. You can have a fixed database that you're always using. You can create a new one if it doesn't exist, which is what I'm going to do here. It also keeps a report of which files are open and what information it got. We're going to update this database from the selected design files using the wildcard. Again, if I'm curious what that wildcard will match, I can go in here and see that there's 5 files that it's going to access. I hit start, and the program goes through, and it's going to open each of these files, and it's going to update that database with the information from the files that we're looking at, okay? And in this case, the information in the title block is tags. There's also a way to use this where you extract it from text elements, okay? All different kinds of things you can do very quickly and easily. So we created 7 database records, and that's because some of those files had more than one title block in them, okay? So if you got that situation, you can still use this program. All right. Now let's edit this database. Let's take a look here. So again, there's some information that isolates what we're after, but let's go down to the sheet number and the total number of sheets, okay? And let's say we need to change that. We'll make this 105 sheets instead of what it currently is. And then, you know, what's great about Excel is you can do things pretty quickly. And let's just say we're going to go from we're going to make 25, 26, and then we're going to renumber these sheets in a different way. Boom. And so we've got those. We're going to save our spreadsheet. I just Control-S it, and we'll close it. And now we're going to change the mode to update the selected design files from the database. So basically, we've changed the sheet sequencing here, leaving everything else alone. I'm going to hit Start. and it's going to go through those same 7 files, and it will locate, you can see that we're opening them, we're getting in there, and we're going to be changing the values in there so that they're going to be in the hundreds, 105, rather than what we had before. So we're all done. Design file's complete, and you can see now that this is 25 of 105, and if we opened each one. And it's just a quick way for anybody to go through and make the changes like that they want in title block information. It can also be used for, changes, revisions, anything that, is kind of in a grid that has, data associated with a particular location in the file. So Title Block Manager is another program that can save you a huge amount of time. All right, well, that's what I wanted to cover today, and I hope that you learned something here. It's something that you can benefit from. I'm going to stop now and take any questions that you might have on anything that I covered. And if you want to do that, please do it through the chat. We still have quite a few people on the line. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, I'll try to take up any that come up along the line. Okay? So again, the chat bubble is on your Join Me toolbar. It's that little icon with the cartoon speaking bubble. And if you have a question, go ahead and just ask it there.